So now we've come to the scene where Mike is attending the basketball game of the granddaughter of Captain Howard. Okay. Now, why is this important? You see, this is important because of Kobe's daughter, Gigi. We know Gigi also played basketball. That's why this had to be a girls' basketball game that they were attending. Okay, that's why it had to be that. And not only this, but you have to understand, where was the helicopter headed at the time that it actually crashed? They were on their way to Gigi's basketball tournament. Okay, so that's why they had to add this scene as predictive programming. Okay, let's take a look at something. All right, so this is an article from foxnews.com about the helicopter crash. All right, so let's scroll down a bit and see what it says. And it reads, the helicopter crash that left Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and 7 others dead was likely caused by the pilot's spatial disorientation. Yeah, okay. I wouldn't doubt that he was actually programmed to take a dive. But anyway, National Transportation Safety Board officials said Tuesday, Bryant, his daughter Gigi, and 7 others were killed when the helicopter they were on crashed into a hillside in Southern California last January. They were all flying from Orange County to a youth basketball tournament in Ventura County when the helicopter encountered thick fog near Calabasas. Okay. So again, they were flying from Orange County, which again, we already touched on the color orange. Orange represents enlightenment. It also represents sacrifice. They were flying from there to get to Gigi's basketball tournament that she was in. That was in Ventura County. Okay. So that's why they had to add the scene of the girls playing basketball. Okay. This predictive programming to everything that transpired on that day. Okay. And also notice the helicopter encountered the thick fog near Calabasas. Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, Calabasas is the 33rd district of California. Okay. And we know what the number 33 represents. Sacrifice, enlightenment. Okay. So moving forward in the scene, you have Mike Lowry and Captain Howard. And Captain Howard begins to tell Mike about this story about the guy that was a Buddhist and his horse or whatever. But long story short, I mean, they pretty much added this because if you know anything about Kobe, he was into Buddhism or meditation, so to speak. He was heavily into that. Okay, this is just another illusion or a part of predictive programming towards Kobe. Okay. And as we know, Buddhism is just another offshoot of the mystery school system of ancient Babylon and ancient Kemet. All right. And take a look at the strap around Captain Howard's neck. It's you see the number 7 there? Okay. That's not by happenstance. They did this on purpose. That's for Gigi. All right. Continuing on in the scene, you had Captain Howard's granddaughter. She took the last shot to try and win the game, and she missed, of course. But look at how the cameraman filmed this particular scene. Look at how he filmed the jump shot. He filmed it to where the sun is illuminating right in the middle of the rim, okay? This, again, is just more veneration of the sun, all right? So moving forward with the scene, if we look in the background on the wall, you see a picture of a man making a gun sign with his hand and putting it to his head. And, you know, as we know, that's usually a symbol for suicide, or in this case, sacrifice. Okay. They always put little subliminal stuff in the background when they're trying to give a message to people without them knowing. Okay. Look above his head. You see the word monk, which is interesting because Captain Howard just gave Mike the story about the Buddhists. Then you have the word monk here, Buddhist monk. Okay, it's a play on words. But then look at the O in the middle of the word monk. They made a face out of it. And the eyes are in the shape of an X. Now, we know the X eyes is usually a symbol for death. And the X period is a symbol for Osiris. And as we know, Osiris is the god of death. Okay. So this is right after Armando just shot Captain Howard. And as we see here, he has his left eye exposed for the so-called mother goddess. As we said earlier, it's also known as the Eye of Ra. Okay. It's pretty much the feminine aspect of Ra. Okay. And I want you brothers to pay very close attention to how this scene plays out, because there's a specific message that they're trying to display. Okay. Now notice I just said that he has his left eye exposed. Okay. Now let's see what happens next. All right. As we see here, you have the Hegelian dialectic being displayed. Okay. The coming together of opposites. So you have the white and black. That's why both Mike and the female referee, they're wearing white and black. Okay. Mike, he represents the masculine aspect. The referee, she represents the feminine aspect. Okay. And notice it was Captain Howard that just got murdered. Okay. What this scene actually represents is the death of the masculine principle and the veneration of the feminine principle. Okay. Because notice, well, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, we find out that Rita is now the new captain. Okay. So Captain Howard had to be removed. He represents the masculine principle. And now you have Rita, that's the captain, which represents the feminine principle being venerated. Okay. Now take a look at this. Now remember, originally it was Armando's left eye that was exposed for the feminine principle. Okay. Now it's his right eye that's exposed for the masculine principle. Okay. That's what I said this scene was about. Okay. They're letting us know without a shadow of a doubt. Okay. This is about the masculine principle and the feminine. Okay. This was the death of the masculine aspect. That's why Captain Howard had to be removed. So the feminine, the divine feminine, could be venerated. Okay. That's why Rita is now the new captain, since Captain Howard was removed. All right. Remember what I told you earlier in this series, that the cameramen, a lot of times the cameramen are also in the craft. Okay. And they purposely shoot these shots at specific angles to capture certain things in the background, to display a specific message to people without them really knowing it. Okay. You know, those that are in the know, they see it. Okay. It's really for them as well to let them know that the message is being carried out. Okay. But what I want you all to pay attention to is the license plate. Okay. Look very closely at the license plate. We're about to go to the gematria. Okay. Because there's a specific reason that this was shot at this angle. It was purposely to show us the license plate. Okay. So let's get into the gematria and see what we come up with. Let's look at the first half of the license plate. All right. Okay. So the first half of the license plate was QEB. Okay. And as we see, QEB in English comes out to a numerical value of 24. Okay. The number 24 is the number that Kobe Bryant wore in the second half of his career with the Los Angeles Lakers. Okay. This was not by happenstance. Okay. They purposely had the beginning of that license plate come out to a numerical value of 24. It plays right into the narrative. Okay. Now, if that's not enough, let's see what the second half of the license plate comes out to be. Okay. So this is the second half of the license plate number. And of course, it comes out to a numerical value of 13. Okay. As we know, Kobe Bryant's daughter was 13 years old at the time the helicopter crash. Okay. And we already know, as we went over throughout the duration of this series, that the number 13 represents death and rebirth within the craft. Okay. So this license plate, the first half was 24 for Kobe. The second half was 13 for his daughter, Gigi. Okay. And this was not by happenstance. It was definitely on purpose. That's the message they were trying to display. Okay. So as the scene comes to an end, the cameraman zooms out from an aerial view. And as we see on each side of the screen, you have the colors of the LA Lakers. You have Mike's car, which is it's a variation of purple. Then to the left, you have the car that's this goldish yellow color. Okay, this was on purpose. This is for the LA Lakers, another allusion to Kobe Bryant. Okay. Then, of course, right here in the middle, you have Mike and Captain Howard. Okay, Mike has on the black and white for the Hegelian dialectic. Then you have Captain Howard, who just got murdered with blood everywhere. Okay, what does that represent? The black, white, and red, the black mass. Okay, Captain Howard was just sacrificed. Okay, to promote the divine feminine. Like I said before, this is why Rita is now captain in the stead of Captain Howard. Okay. The same way Kobe Bryant was sacrificed to promote the divine feminine, or like I said before, one of the reasons he was sacrificed. Okay. Okay. So this is the scene where Mike and Marcus have teamed up with the Ammo Squad. Okay. And the Ammo Squad begins to massacre the Bad Boy song. And Mike and Marcus have to check them on that. Okay. But let's look at the dress code that's going on here. Okay. Notice something very interesting. Look at all three of their shirts. Okay. Notice how the big gentleman to the far right, he has on his shirt, the front of it, ammo numbers and the number 7. Okay. If you go down, Vanessa Hudgens, her shirt has ammo 6. But then going further to the left, the Asian gentleman, there's nothing on the front of his shirt. Okay. Notice how the two on the far right, what their shirt has on it is more pronounced. Okay. Because it has the number 7 and the number 6. Now the Asian, on his left shoulder, he has ammo 4. Okay. But it's not as pronounced. It's not on the front of his shirt. And that's on purpose. What they actually wanted to stand out was the number 7 and the number 6. Okay. Again, if you put 7 and 6 together, that's 76 for the goat. Okay. For Pan, the Capricorn. Also, 7 plus 6 is 13. Okay. 13 has been a number that we've been seeing all throughout this movie. Okay. It's been prominent throughout this movie. All right, so now we've arrived to this scene where Mike, Marcus, along with the ammo squad, they've arrived to the Zillion nightclub, okay? Looking for the suspect, Zuelo. It's Zuelo's birthday party, okay? And in the opening of this scene, if you look to the far left, you see two young ladies wearing what appears to be jersey dresses of some type, okay? And on those jersey dresses, you have the number 21, which looks like it's on both dresses. And if you add 21 plus 21, it gives you the number 42, okay? The number 42 is connected to Osiris. And as we know, Osiris is the god of death. And the number 42 is actually connected to him. All right. I may do a video on that a little later on down the line. But anyway, also looking at their dresses, it looks like it's sponsored by Adidas. Okay. Now, if we know anything about Kobe Bryant, the first sports endorsement deal that he got was with Adidas, if I'm not mistaken. His original shoes were actually made by Adidas. So this is actually more predictive programming, because also look at the color scheme. It's the same color scheme as his high school jersey, as we already saw earlier on in this series. Okay. Okay, so we have here, Mike gets out of his car and the cameraman purposely pans in on his jacket. Now, as we know, this is a Versace jacket, okay? Now, the logo for Versace is the head of Medusa, okay? Now, Medusa, as we know in Greek mythology, is oftentimes depicted with her hair turning into snakes, okay? It's just another reference to the serpent, okay? Kobe Bryant was the Black Mamba, as we know, okay? So this is another reference to the serpent, okay? And also, if you do further research on Kobe Bryant, you also find out that he was actually well versed in Greek mythology as well, okay? Now, as the scene continues on, we have Rita entering into the club. Now, notice how the cameraman shot this scene, okay? You have Rita with the gold dress on, okay, which represents the sun. Again, the alchemical metal that represents the sun is gold, okay? This is why she has on the gold dress. Again, Rita also represents a mother goddess figure in this movie as well. But look at the background. You see quite a few women with the shimmering silver on. Then you have the one sister with the white dress on, okay, which actually represents the moon, okay? The alchemical metal that represents the moon is silver, and the color that represents the moon is white, okay? What you have to understand is most of the mother goddess figures of antiquity, they're usually represented by the moon, or a half crescent moon, so to speak. But there are a few mother goddess figures that are represented by the sun, okay? For example, Easter just passed not too long ago, okay? Now, Easter, as we know, is in veneration of the Celtic goddess known as Ostora, okay? Ostora was known as the goddess of the dawn, okay? She's represented by the sun, okay? Now what I need you brothers to do is take a good look at the building in the background, okay? It's called Fado. I believe that's how it's pronounced. But if I'm not mistaken, it's an Irish pub in Miami, okay? And look at the symbols on either side of the word Fado, okay? It's a spiral, okay? Now, the spiral, we know, is a symbol that represents the divine feminine. It's a symbol that represents the mother goddess, okay? The number 9 is an allusion to the spiral, okay? They both represent the same thing. If you look at a number 9, it looks a lot like a spiral, okay? Because they both represent the divine feminine They both represent the mother goddess. Now, let's go and prove that, okay? This is from the website numerologist.com about the number 9, okay? It's an article about the number 9. And it reads, so what's the meaning of the number 9? The number 9 is the last of the single-digit numbers in our base 10 counting system and represents the end of the cycle. Again, this is why it had to be 9 people involved in the helicopter crash, okay? That represented the end of a cycle, okay? It represented the end of Kobe Bryant's life, his daughter, and the rest of those people on the helicopter. But also it represented the end of something else. And I'm going to touch on it further as we go along in this article. But continuing on, it says, ancient mathematical philosophers called it the finishing post, and the ancient Greeks called it the horizon. It's unsurpassable and represents the uppermost limit of what can be discovered and expressed inside of our human experience. Okay? So now let's continue on. So this portion of the article reads, the number 9 and astrology, mythology, and religion. In the ancient world, which is, let's face it, is where numbers and their spiritual power were understood so much more than they are today. The number 9 resonated with sacred structure and the furthest limitations of this world. Again, this goes right into the narrative of Kobe Bryant. He had reached his limit here on the planet Earth. Okay? It goes on to read, before human experience meets the divine. Okay, we already stated that Kobe Bryant is now in the celestial sphere. He is amongst the stars. He's in what's known as the Greek hero cult. His human experience here on this planet came to its limit. It came to a close, and now he's met the divine. He's amongst the celestial sphere, so to speak. Okay? Let's continue on with the article. So this portion of the article reads, coming at the end of the numerical cycle, the 9 is often through to indicate death. I've been saying this throughout the whole series. Now you should understand why the movie came out on the date that it did. The movie came out January the 17th, 2020. The helicopter crashed on the date of January the 26th, 2020. The movie came out exactly 9 days before the helicopter crash, indicating the death of Kobe Bryant and everybody else that was along for that ride. Okay? Am I still reaching, brothers? Am I still reaching? Okay? Everything should be coming full circle right now. You brothers should see that I'm not crazy. Okay? Now, if that's not enough, let's continue on with the article. Okay? And it reads, and whilst it does often coincide with the end of a project or phase of life, keep that in mind, it indicates a valuable stage of release and surrender, which must come before the birth of something new. There you have it, brothers. You have another representation of death and rebirth, the same as the number 13. Okay? The number 9 represents the same thing. Okay? Now you brothers should know that I'm not crazy. I don't just say things just to be saying it. Okay? It said, let me read that part again. It indicates a valuable stage of release and surrender, which must come before the birth of something new. Allow me to bring something to your remembrance. What was the slogan of the year 2020. It was the new normal. Okay? Now, go back up to this part of the article where it says, and whilst it does often coincide with the end of a project or phase of life, hence you have the new normal. Okay? Let's go back up to the top because I don't think you brothers understand how heavy this is. It reads, coming at the end of the numerical cycle, the 9 is often through to indicate death. Now we know it indicated the death of Kobe Bryant and everybody else that was on the helicopter. But it also indicated another death, which is what? It was at that time that the coronavirus grew massively. Now, granted, the coronavirus was already on the horizon. Okay, it didn't just come, but it literally blew up massively after the death of Kobe Bryant. That's when it really spread so rapidly. Okay, let's continue on with the article. It says, and whilst it does often coincide with the end of a project or phase of life, that's why we're going into the new normal. It indicates a valuable stage of release and surrender. Once Kobe Bryant died, that's when the COVID-19 was, or the coronavirus was really released on a massive level. Okay, what you have to understand about Kobe, he was pretty much the physical representation of the Greek god Apollo. Okay, Apollo was known as the god of pestilence or the god of the plague. Okay, once Kobe Bryant died, the plague was released. The pestilence was released. Okay, now what have I been saying throughout this whole movie? The sun has been venerated throughout this whole movie. Can you brothers do me a favor and look up what the definition of corona actually means? Okay. The word corona is associated with the sun. Okay. Remember last year, right after Kobe died, there was something that went viral on the internet. Okay. It was about Kobe Bryant's name. When you type it into the Google Translator, okay? When you typed Kobe Bryant's name into the Google Translator from English to Hebrew, Kobe was the equivalent of COVID. Okay, I know you brothers remember that. Just thought I'd bring that to your remembrance. Okay. All right, so now let's touch on the spiral. Okay, because remember, the building in the background as Rita entered into the club, that particular building, the symbols were of a spiral. Okay, and I already stated that the number 9 is an allusion to the spiral. Okay, and they both represent the same thing. Okay, so this is an article from the website learnreligions.com, and it's an article about the spiral. And it reads, woman's symbol, because of its connection with mother goddesses. Yo. Let me read that again. Because of its connection with mother goddesses, the spiral is a very feminine symbol. Remember, I stated the number 9 represents the divine feminine. Okay, and we just read up on the number 9 and everything that it represents. Okay, now we're reading that the spiral as well is representative of the mother goddess. Okay, the divine feminine. Okay, continuing on, it reads, representing not only women, but also a variety of things traditionally associated with women. Besides life cycles, fertility, and childbirth, the spiral can reference intuition and other more internal concepts associated with women. Okay, let's continue on. All right, this portion of the article reads, symbol of change. Life cycles and cycles of the natural world create change. The old dies away so the new can come forth. Each of us progresses from child to adult to old age. As such, the spiral is not a symbol of stagnation, but rather of change, progression, and development. It embraces these things as good and healthy and helps one to accept change, even though we often are more comfortable retreating into tradition and old standard ways. Again, the whole theme of 2020 was the new normal. Okay? Now we start to understand why in that particular scene, when Rita was entering into the club, the cameraman had to capture that Irish pub, which their symbols is that of the spiral. Okay? That was not by happenstance. That was on purpose. They had to capture that along with Rita wearing the gold dress. Okay? Because she is a mother goddess figure in this movie. And again, the number 9, which is also the spiral, represents the mother goddess, the divine feminine, as we just read. Okay?